You're listening to Trace Hunt Radio. We explore the darkest chapters of true crime, unsolved mysteries, cold cases, and the twisted minds behind them. Follow the blood, chase the clues, uncover the truth. Stay sharp, the hunt begins now.
One shot, one map, one killer's signature.
June 1968. A silver mist clings to the rolling vineyards of Sonoma County, California, as night descends over endless rows of grapevines. At first glance, the valley seems peaceful. Dew-glazed leaves tremble under gas-lit lanterns carried by late shift workers, the distant hum of tractors echoing like lullabies. But beneath this veneer of pastoral calm, a predator lurks. Shortly after midnight on June 12th, 28-year-old Paul Jensen pedals his bicycle along Redwood Road, returning from a long shift at Monte Vista Winery. He waves at the last of his co-workers, their laughter fading into the darkness. The road narrows, flanked by towering redwood and brush, so thick it swallows the moonlight. Jensen does not hear the soft click of a safety catch, nor see the flash of a barrel in the gloom. Then a single gunshot cracks the night sharp, precise. A passerby finds him 30 minutes later, his bicycle still upright, the front wheel wedged against a vine trellis, and Jensen slumped on the pavement, one hand gripping his shoulder. The bullet wound is executed with surgical accuracy, no outward gore, just a neat circular entry at the deltoid muscle. A lone footprint, size 9 timberland, is imprinted in the dusty shoulder of the road and vanishes into the undergrowth. There is no sign of struggle, no weapon, no witness. By dawn, the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office has cordoned off the scene. Detective Marissa Doyle, head of the newly formed Night Watch Squad, steps under the yellow tape. Tall and resolute, she scans the landscape with a flashlight. Tire tracks from Jensen's bike, a smudge of blood on gravel, and the single footprint that haunts her. At Jensen's side, Deputy Tom Reyes kneels to photograph the wound. "Look at the exit," he murmurs, exposing the sidearm puncture. "The tremors are gone. This was instantaneous." He tucks away his camera and stands. "No witnesses heard anything?" Doyle shakes her head. "Just cicadas and wind." She lifts a folded envelope from Jensen's chest pocket. Inside is a scrap of hand-drawn map, a crude sketch of vineyards with a bold X near a cluster of 4 oak trees. No signature, no note, only that single X. Doyle slips it into an evidence bag. Within hours, news vans line the county fairgrounds, serving as the temporary press center. Reporters speculate wildly. Was Jensen the first victim of a copycat Zodiac killer or something new? The sheriff's press release offers little. Suspect unknown. No public danger. Investigation ongoing. But the air buzzes with unease. 2 weeks later, on June 28th, a second attack. At precisely 11:17 p.m., hospital receptionist Laura Bennett finishes her shift at Valley General. She heads west along Piner Road, humming as she locks her car. A single shot breaks the silence. Bennett staggers back, clutching her left shoulder. Her wounded arm is tender to the touch, but not fatal. Sheriff's deputies rush her to the A, where Dr. Samuel Cross removes the bullet fragment, cleanly lodged just beneath the skin. He notes the caliber matches the Jensen case. Doyle and Reyes arrive 2 hours later to photograph Bennett's car, where they find a second envelope under the windshield wiper. This map, too, shows an X among the vineyards, but rotated 90 degrees from Jensen's. On the back, in neat block letters, 2217, stay tuned. Doyle examines the cipher. "It's not a time code," she murmurs. "It's a taunt." She traces her finger over the 2217. matching the night's 10:17 p.m. timestone. Our killer wants us to chase coordinates. Reyes lifts a muddy footprint cast from the roadside again, size 9, but this time coated with fine flour dust, like from the nearby Golden Harvest Bakery. He's marking his path, Reyes says. Every scene is staged. By early July, the Night Watch squad expands. Cryptographer Elena Morales deciphers the maps. GIS analyst Ben Cross plots the 6’s on a county grid, and undercover officer Jim Liu canvasses Enoteca employees. Together, they uncover that the two X sites form a straight line through the heart of the valley, intersecting at the abandoned Moonlit Vines estate, a defunct vineyard mothballed for years. On July 10th, the third victim, 35-year-old accountant Miriam Carter. She is discovered in the driveway of Moonlit Vines at exactly 12:43 a.m., shot once in the shoulder. As Carter lies unconscious, the killer stands over her, places a small folded map in her palm, and disappears into the grape rows. Deputies arrive moments later. Carter's eyes flick open at the sight of tape. She tries to speak, but only whispers. He said, "You're next." Doyle finds the map, an X at the eastern edge of the estate, near an old irrigation well. On the reverse, 3 question marks, scrawled in thick black ink. The killer's final cipher, sending the squad into disarray. As word spreads, the sleepy county braces itself. Winery owners hire extra security. Late shift workers pair up to avoid solitary travel. Towns light up with motion sensor lamps. Yet the killer's message endures. An unseen Alpha 6 stalking undercover in the vines, taunting law enforcement with puzzles and threats. At the squad's command center, a converted conference room in the sheriff's station, Doyle pins the 3 maps on the wall, her eyes narrowing at the pattern. Morales sits beside her, running frequency analysis on each cipher. He's using the compass rose motif 6 points around a circle, Morales explains. Alpha 6, perhaps. Doyle draws a compass rose in red marker. Alpha 6, she whispers. Our killer's calling card. Outside, the valley glows under floodlights. Doyle checks her watch. 9 p.m. Somewhere out there, along an unlit road, a lone figure grips a pistol. The Night Watch squad stands ready, determined to crack the cipher before Alpha 6 strikes again. Det. Marissa Doyle sits before a corkboard crisscrossed with red string and pinned with 3 hand-drawn maps. The lights in the Night Watch squad command center hum overhead as cryptographer Elena Morales leans forward, adjusting her spectacles. Each envelope, Morales explains, pointing to the first map from Jensen's murder, contains an identical compass rose motif 6 points around a circle. The killer signs as Alpha 6, she says, tapping the second map from Bennett's attack. The 22:17 timestamp isn't random. It's the angle between this X and that one. GIS analyst Benjamin Cross, reviewing the third map, adds, plot all 3 X coordinates on a grid aligned to true north. They form a straight line. That line leads directly through Moonlit Vines. He circles the line with a red marker. It's his trail. Detective Doyle rises, absently smoothing her jacket. He wants us to decode these maps as part of his game. He's daring us to chase him. The door hisses open as Officer Jim Liu enters, handcuff links rattling at his belt. I scoured every vineyard tour flyer in Santa Rosa and Sonoma. Got lucky, found a limited edition brochure for an illicit Alpha 6. Night tasting hosted once a month at a secret location. He spreads the glossy flyer on Doyle's desk. The postcard-sized print shows a compass rose and 6 wine bottles arranged around it. Details are scant. No address, just July 22nd, sunset, find the door in the shadow of the redwood arch. Doyle closes her eyes. He's planning the next move. That evening, Doyle, Morales, Cross, and Liu gather on Redwood Road, where Jensen fell. The moon rides high, casting dappled light through redwood trunks. Doyle checks her watch. 9:45 p.m. Morales holds a tablet open to a digital version of the maps. Overnight, they overlaid the original X points, predicting the next location, an old distillery near the river bend. Coordinates match. Cross confirms. 2217, 12,217 feet, an impossible latitude, but when rotated 90 degrees clockwise, it falls precisely on Redwood Bridge, 1.3 miles west of Moonlit Vines. Lou shines a flashlight toward the river. The bridge is abandoned, perfect for an ambush. He slides on a pair of latex gloves and holds up the night-tasting flyer. No visitor would find this without insider knowledge. Doyle crouches, examining a tuft of flour dust on the pavement. He dusted the road again like flour from the bakery, she says. He wants us picking up footprints that vanish. A distant engine hums. Cross aims his binoculars toward the old bridge. SUV approaching unmarked black. Plate obscured. He lowers the lenses. Could be him. Doyle raises her voice. All units, converge on Redwood Bridge. We move in 5. At exactly 10:17 p.m., headlights pierce the night. The SUV halts beneath the bridge's arch. Doyle steps into its glow. Badge lowered. Alpha 6, we know you're here. Step out with your hands empty. Silence. The engine idles, then cuts out. A figure steps into the beam, clothed in dark coveralls, hands tucked beneath a leather coat. A white mask blank, except for a painted compass rose, hides his features. In his right hand, he holds a padded envelope. Morales moves forward. Drop it. The figure raises the envelope, lips whispering beneath the mask. He tosses it at Doyle's feet and retreats into shadow. An instant later, he lunges, sprinting upriver. Doyle pursues, heart pounding. She corners him atop a fallen pier post, but he vaults over, splashing into the shallows and vanishing. In the envelope, Doyle finds a fourth map. This time the X is drawn in red ink at an unmarked clearing in Redwood Grove. And on the back, the cipher reads, 4 points completed, 4 blooms remain. Find you where shadow meets root. She tucks it into evidence. Morales kneels to photograph the masked figure's footprints' bare toes, pressing into the damp earth, then dissolving in mud. Cross kneels beside her. He's playing us marking stops on his hunter's path. He traces the new X on his tablet, overlaying it with the previous 3. The 4 points form the beginning of a pentagon, its 5th corner pointing toward an old water tower on Redwood Hill. Doyle stands, determination in her eyes. He'll strike there next. Back at headquarters, Torrey Jenkins, lead cryptologist, deciphers the ciphertext. He paces before the squad. Shadow meets root implies the water tower's base root of the tree. He holds up a diagram of Redwood Hill. There's an ancient redwood tree whose roots breach the tower's foundation. Doyle nods. He's inviting us. We need to arrive before 2 a.m. Morales and Cross reconfigure the team's night schedule. Lou will guard the tower's east approach, Ray's the west. Doyle and Carter stake out the route base. As the clock ticks toward 1:30 a.m., storm clouds roll in. A distant roll of thunder underlines the tension. The team huddles in the shadow of the tower's rusted gate, flashlights trained on the ancient redwood standing sentinel. At 1:58 a.m., a soft shuffle of bare feet echoes on stone. Doyle signals to Carter. A masked figure moves from root to root. He kneels, placing down a 5th envelope sealed with black wax, and disappears up a narrow dirt path. Carter rushes forward, snapping the seal. Inside, another map marks the 5th X at a lonely bend in Redwood Creek. On the back, only one word. Bloom. Before Doyle can react, A shot rings out sharp and near. Carter staggers, clutching her jacket. The bullet grazed her shoulder. She tumbles behind a root buttress as Doyle fires back, unholstering her service weapon. Gunshots echo against the tower's stone. Rain begins to spatter, and the masked figure's silhouette flits among roots before dissolving into the night. Doyle rushes to Carter's side. Carter winces but nods. "I'm okay," she gasps, voice steady. But he's one step ahead. Doyle secures Carter's wound, then stands, firefight adrenaline coursing through her veins. She scans the tower's broken windows. Inside, she glimpses movement, another flash of the Compass Rose mask. "Night watch, move in," Doyle orders into her radio. Sirens wail as deputies fan out, but the killer is gone, leaving only the fifth map, 4 points marked in blood, red ink, and a promise. One final bloom remains. Doyle pulls the soaked map from her coat and unfolds it under trembling fingers. The fifth X at Redwood Creek is circled, the Compass Rose drawn in wax. In the storm's howl, she whispers, "This ends at the creek." She raises her flashlight, beam slicing through rain, and marches toward the creek's bend, determined to confront Alpha 6 once and for all. A week after the ambush at Redwood Grove, Sonoma County braces for the next move in Alpha 6's deadly cipher. In the Night Watch Squad's temporary command post, a repurposed wine cellar beneath the sheriff's station, Detective Marissa Doyle and her team scrutinize every scrap of intel. The fifth map from Episode 2 has led them to Redwood Creek, but Alpha 6's final message promises one bloom remains. Cryptographer Elena Morales taps a stylus against her tablet. The pattern of the 5 X points forms a perfect pentagon. The center lies at Moonlit Vines, the abandoned estate. GIS analyst Benjamin Cross displays the overlay. That's where it began in Episode 1, and now it ends there. Doyle squares her shoulders. Morales, Cross pinpoint a time. When does our pentagon close? Cross adjusts the digital model, based on the angles and the timestamps. 2217, 1117, 043, and 158. We're looking at 2217 again. 42 hours from now, at Moonlit Vines. Sergeant Helen Carter adds, "The night tasting flyer said sunset. With the solstice setting at 8:45 p.m., we have a narrow window." Under cover of twilight, the squad mobilizes at the Vines. Off-duty vineyard workers, briefed and uniformed as deputies, sweep entry roads. Plainclothes officers mix with clusters of curious wine enthusiasts. Moonlit Vines is lit by low-hanging lanterns strung along trellised rows, the air tinged with fermenting grapes and anticipation. A single oak arch marks the entrance, just as the flyer described. At 8:30 p.m., Doyle greets an elegantly dressed vineyard manager deputy, Tom Reyes, in disguise, who nods and watches the gates. Morales, concealed behind weathered casks, deciphers a final instruction scrawled on a small card passed to them by an undercover agent posing as a guest. The card reads, "Combine all blooms, find the false flower in the 5th petal's place." Doyle glances at the crowd. Guests sip crimson merlots, swirling glasses beneath a full moon's glow. 6 barrels form a circle on a raised wooden platform. Behind them, a table displays 6 identical black wax rouses in glass vases, one for each point of the pentagon. She turns to Carter. "We've seen 5 blooms. The 6th is our trap." At precisely 9:17 p.m., 40 minutes before the 2217 deadline, high, slender figure emerges at the oak arch, wearing a Compass Rose mask. The masked guest steps confidently to the rose display, scanning each face. A hush falls. Doyle whispers into her radio, "All units, stand by." A figure kneels before the 5th vase and lifts its rose. Doyle's team fans out silently, moving through wine-stained crates and half-empty bottles. The figure turns, revealing the tip of a pistol beneath the coat's lapel. Alpha 6, Doyle calls out, voice amplified by a single speaker. This ends now. The masked person freezes, pivoting toward the sound. Doyle steps onto the platform, badge in hand. Drop it. The figure raises the pistol. A single shot echoes through the vineyards, dull and final. Guests scream and scatter. The masked assailant collapses, the pistol clattering on the wooden boards. Doyle rushes forward as deputies converge. Reyes and Carter cuff the suspect while Doyle pulls off the mask-revealing Benjamin Cross, the GIS analyst. Shock ripples through the squad. Cross's shock, dampened eyes meet Doyle's. What? Why? Doyle demands, kneeling beside him. Cross's voice trembles. It was perfect 5 plotted points, the perfect symmetry. But you saw through the maps too quickly. You used my own overlay. I had to finish the pattern myself. He gestures at the roses. The 5th petal was false, a wax replica. I needed to swap it with the real one, then place the pistol in the circle as the final bloom. Carter shakes her head. You nearly killed an innocent. Cross's eyes glaze. The world refuses to see art in chaos. Alpha 6 is the artist, and I'm his curator. Doyle summons paramedics as deputies secure the scene. She pries a crumpled guest book from Cross's coat pocket entries, signed in pseudonyms referencing compass points. The last signature reads simply, Knee. In the aftermath, the vineyard is cordoned, vines trampled beneath frantic feet. Guests huddle under lantern light, clutching one another. Reporters flash cameras outside the temporary barrier. Doyle addresses the press. Benjamin Cross admitted to orchestrating the final act of violence, believing mapping murder with geometric precision was an artistry unmatched. He alone carried out the last assault. A hand is raised. Where's the real Alpha 6? Doyle pauses. We believed Alpha 6 was the shooter, but it appears Cross acted to complete someone else's design, one last bloom on the pattern he revered. Whoever sent the Cipher Alpha 6 remains at large. That night, Doyle walks alone to the fallen rose display. The 5th vase lies shattered, wax petals stained red. She kneels and collects the lone rose, the genuine one, its black wax gleaming in the moonlight. In her palm, the petals are warm. She closes her fist, pressing them into her coat. Above her, the full moon hides behind drifting clouds. Far in the vines, a figure watches, concealed among rows of grapes barefoot, masked, unseen. A compass rose symbol is painted on the trunk of an old oak tree. Doyle senses the gaze. She turns, patrolling up and down the path. No one is there. She pockets the rose and steps back towards the lights of the station, determined. The trial of Cross will expose the twisted mind who followed, but the real Alpha 6's identity remains hidden in plain sight. The courtroom drama surrounding Benjamin Cross's trial by tasting has barely faded when Detective Inspector Marissa Doyle convenes her night watch squad for a new briefing. The gallery is once again the converted wine cellar beneath the sheriff's station, lanterns now replaced by fluorescent strips humming overhead. Doyle stands before a corkboard where the 5th X map and the guestbook page signed Knee remain pinned. We caught the curator, Doyle begins, voice steady, but the architect Alpha 6 still walks free. Cross acted to complete the Pentagon, but who provided the original cipher? And what does Knee mean? Cryptographer Elena Morales adjusts her glasses. Knee could be northeast, but nothing on our grid aligns with that. Unless she pulls out a 6th map, found sewn into Cross's jacket lining during the trial. It's blank except for one compass rose and the notation, any next coordinate. GIS analyst Benjamin Cross's replacement, Katrina Saunders, overlays the 6th map onto the vineyard grid. Knee from moonlit vines leads to Redwood Road, near the spot where Paul Jensen was killed in episode 1. Specifically, it points to an old water tower 4 miles northeast of here. Doyle notes it in her notebook. The water tower was decommissioned in '66. No public access, minimal security. She looks to Sergeant Helen Carter. Form a team. You, Reyes, and Liu cover the tower perimeter. Morales and Saunders plot the quickest approach. I'll lead the entry. That night, rain spatters against car windshields as Deputy Reyes steers the unmarked SUV along a rutted dirt road heading northeast from Moonlit Vines. Behind them, Carter keeps watch on the radio. Morales and Saunders follow in a second vehicle, field laptops aglow. At 11:15 p.m., they arrive at the base of the water tower, a cylindrical brick structure crowned by a rusted tank. Overgrown ivy claws its sides. Rot and mildew coat the barred windows. A padlock secures the heavy iron door. No footprints or tire tracks mar the sodden grass. Doyle steps forward, flashlight in hand. She shines its beam on the padlock. Fresh scratch marks suggest someone pried it open recently. She nods to Reyes, who positions himself to cover the northern approach, while Carter and Liu fan out to the south. Doyle counts down on her fingers. 3, 2, 1. She kicks the door. It thuds open, revealing pitch-black interior. Inside, the air is musty stale as forgotten secrets. The floor is littered with broken glass and puddles reflecting the flashlight beam. Doyle leads, stepping carefully. She raises her radio. Alpha 6, you're surrounded. Come out with your hands up. Silence answers. She ascends the narrow steel spiral staircase that hugs the inner wall. Each step creaks underfoot. Halfway up, she notices fresh footprints, bare toes pressing into the metal grating, and a smear of dark liquid on a stair tread. She photographs it quickly. It's not blood, but the same solvent formula X-189 found at previous scenes. At the landing below the tank, Doyle crouches. The ground is slick with spilled solvent, and a single black wax rose lies discarded near the hatch. She picks up the rose, noting that its stem is stained green, a variant species unseen before. Above, lightning flashes through a small window, illuminating a figure perched on the overhead catwalk. Doyle levels her flashlight and calls up. Alpha 6, step down now. The figure leaps across the catwalk to a ladder on the far side and descends 2 rungs before coming to a stop. Cloaked in a dark trench coat, the suspect's face remains hidden beneath a hood. Morales' voice crackles over the radio. Detective, southwest exit is covered. The figure drops to the landing and bolts down the opposite staircase. Doyle pursues, heart hammering. She reaches the ground floor just as the suspect leaps through the open door and into the night rain, sprinting toward the vineyard rows. Reyes and Liu emerge from cover, guns drawn. Split up. Doyle orders. She and Carter dash left. Reyes and Liu sprint right. The slick grass hampers their pace, but their flashlights carve the darkness. Moments later, Doyle hears a soft gasp ahead. She rounds a trellis post and spots a lone wine barrel tipped on its head. Behind it, a foot emerges, bare toes pressed into mud. The suspect lies face down, breathing hard. Doyle steps forward, cuffs at the ready. She presses her knee into the suspect's back and pulls off the hood. A shock of blonde hair falls across a pale-faced Lieutenant Marcus Hayes, formerly of the Army Corps of Engineers and current security consultant for several wineries. His uniform-style jacket is mud-spattered. His eyes, wide with fear, glimmer with defiance. Marcus Hayes? Doyle says, voice low. You knew the grid, the compasses, the vineyards. You mapped every point. Hayes struggles beneath her grip. I was Alpha, not 6, he murmurs. Alpha, but I couldn't finish it. Reyes arrives, shining his light. You killed those 5 people. Hayes twists his head. I guided him. The real guy. He was the hand. I only painted the petals and laid the footprints. Carter slaps cuffs on Hayes. You'll explain this at the station? Doyle stands, rain washing across her coat. She looks back at the water tower, a monolith of brick and rust, now the site of a partial confession. Back at headquarters, Doyle interrogates Hayes. Under harsh light, he confesses. He met Alpha 6 at the decommissioned distillery years earlier. A man named Owen Porter, a former vineyard laborer obsessed with perfecting night tasting of terroir and terror. Porter recruited Hayes for his knowledge of the grid and provided the maps, the compass ciphers, and the messages to the Night Watch squad. Hayes admits he placed the 5th bloom and constructed the final trap at Moonlit Vines, but Porter, the true architect, eluded capture. He writes down Porter's name and last known address, a derelict cabin near Redwood Bridge, where the first footprints from episode 1 ended. Doyle's notebook fills with new coordinates. Porter's our final coordinate, she murmurs. Tonight, we go to the bridge. Under a sullen moon, Doyle assembles her team for one last operation. Alpha 6 Owen Porter has guided them on a deadly odyssey through vineyards and murder. Now his map leads to a frozen span where Redwood Road crosses the river. From the sheriff's command, Doyle's voice crackles. Halt all foot and vehicle traffic on Redwood Bridge. Officer Reyes, barricade the east approach. Carter and Liu set a perimeter 200 yards on either side. Morales and Saunders track any unusual footprints. I'm leading the breach. At 2:17 a.m., Doyle steps onto the bridge's surface, its planks slick with river spray. Beneath, the Tennessee River's dark waters rush unseen. She scans the rails. Gloved finger trails cold metal until it stops at a compass rose engraving, Porter's calling card etched into a worn plank. She glances skyward. A single star breaks through clouds overhead. And Cipher's, Jensen's maps, Bennett's threats, Carter's code, they all converge here. Doyle nods into her radio. All units prepare to move in on port side. In the hush of pre-dawn, steps echo. A figure stands at the far end of silhouette, draped in a bespoke trench coat, compass mask perched atop pale hair. The real Alpha 6, Owen Porter, strides toward her, pistol leveled. Doyle raises her badge. Porter, no more blooms. Drop the weapon. He pauses, distance pressing between them. His voice is calm, almost regretful. You solved the map, detective, but you don't see the masterpiece. Before Doyle can react, Porter fires a single shot into the wooden railing. The splintered wood flies, and Doyle flinches, heart pounding. A standoff ensues, 2 adversaries, bound by geometry and blood. Porter's finger tightens, ready to strike. Doyle lunges, baton swinging. The force of her blow sends Porter staggering, the pistol tumbling into planks. Liu and Carter rush in, cuffing Porter's wrists. Doyle kneels, pressing Porter's head against the railing. It's over. He exhales, eyes distant. I gave you the coordinates. The symphony. Doyle shakes her head. That song ends tonight. With Porter in custody, the bridge falls silent. Deputies collect the pistol, the compass masks, and the final map Porter's own hand-drawn compendium of all 6X points in perfect sequence. Morales photographs every line. Under the rising sun, Doyle stands at the rail, gazing into the river's flow. The county's vineyards awaken behind her, dew glittering like tears on leaves. She presses a single black wax rose, Porter's last gift, into her palm and tosses it into the current. The rose floats away, petals unfurling, until the current carries it beyond sight. She turns, face set with resolve. Alpha 6 solved, she says softly. One last bloom extinguished. Behind her, the Night Watch squad gathers warm but triumphant. They have traced the killer's map, confronted his conspirators, and ended his murderous tour. Yet in Doyle's mind lingers the compass motif, the notion that every mystery, once solved, reveals new directions to explore. As detectives file out, Doyle remains on the bridge a moment longer, mapping the next journey in her head. Because in the world of true crime, every answer is but a coordinate on a far larger map of human darkness. Dawn breaks over Sonoma County with a bruised pink sky, and the water of Redwood River glints beneath the newly fallen dew. Detective Inspector Marissa Doyle stands on the banks of the bridge where Owen Porter Alpha 6 was finally captured. Despite the triumph, a heavy hush hangs over the team. 6 lives shattered, 6 mappings of death traced to their source, and now just a slow current to carry away the final black wax rose. Doyle steps forward, flashlight in hand. She shines its beam on the padlock. Fresh scratch marks suggest someone pried it open recently. She nods to Reyes, who positions himself to cover the northern approach, while Carter and Lou fan out to the south. 2 months later, the oak-paneled courtroom of Sonoma County Superior Court fills with murmurs as the final trial commences. Benjamin Cross, the curator who completed the Pentagon, is tried first. Prosecutor Sarah Whitaker lays out the evidence. Cross's GI's overlays, the night tasting flyer, his own confession at Moonlit Vines, and the hostage-like ploy at the Oak Arch. Cross's defense insanity plea crumbles under Dr. Alaina Morales' testimony on the precision of his maps, and surveillance footage placing him at every crime scene. The jury retires after a single hour and returns with a guilty verdict on all counts, accessory to 5 attempted murders and 1 fatal homicide. Sentenced to life without parole, Cross appears unmoved, his eyes distant, tracing unseen grids in the air. Next at the bar stands Owen Porter. Doyle watches him step forward in custody, the real architect of the murders. Whitaker describes Porter's recruitment of Cross, his manufacture of the compass rose masks, the cipher letters to the sheriff's office, and the pride padlocks on Water Tower and Winery gates. Porter's silence during proceedings is broken only when shown the final map, the compendium of 6X points culminating in Redwood Bridge. The crowd gasps as Porter, with a slow, deliberate voice, confesses, "I wanted to chart the night, to paint the darkness with precision. Each victim was a coordinate, each letter a key. But in the end, the pattern needed completion, even at the cost of 5 souls." He bows his head. The judge sentences him to death, citing the premeditated artistry of his crimes as worse than common malice. Porter responds with a single nod, the compass rose tattoo on his wrist creeping into view, like a brand of inevitability. Weeks later, Marissa Doyle and Sergeant Helen Carter return to Moonlit Vines for a quiet memorial. Vineyard managers and family members of the victims gather beneath a white marquee. 6 black wax roses, set in glass vases on a rustic wooden table, symbolize each life lost. Doyle speaks softly. Paul Jensen, Laura Bennett, Miriam Carter, and the 2 unnamed souls whose lives were claimed by maps of blood. We remember you not as points on a grid, but as people with laughter, hopes, and loved ones. Helen Carter places a candle before each rose. As the candles are lit, the interior of the marquee glows golden against the darkening sky, offering warmth where murder once walked. Despite the convictions, Doyle cannot shake the sense that the compass rose's better purpose, guiding travelers, has been perverted into a weapon. Back at the sheriff's office, she re-examines Porter's original cipher letters. One final note remains untranslated, the one Pike found hidden in Porter's cabin near Redwood Bridge. "Home is the North Star, find me there." Doyle stares at the phrase. North Star Polaris, a guiding light. She maps out the 5 known locations. The 6th home coordinate is not where Porter struck, but where he began, a secluded lookout atop Mount Tam's western ridge, overlooking San Francisco Bay. In late fall, Doyle organizes a small team to investigate the Ridge Polaris Point, as they dub it. Reaching the summit at dawn, they find a simple compass rose etched into granite, petals from a long withered black wax rose embedded in the carving. The bay's gray water stretches to the horizon, and the morning sun glitters like a promise. Doyle places the final black wax rose on the etching. "This is where it all began," she says. "And now it truly ends." Sergeant Carter takes Doyle's arm. Alpha 6 followed his own map. Doyle nods. "But we traced his every step and turned his art into evidence." She breathes deeply, the sea breeze carrying the scent of salt and eucalyptus. As the squad departs Polaris Point, Marissa Doyle lingers a moment longer. She closes her eyes, recalling each ciphered letter, each blood-precise wound, each staged footprint. She realizes that in every unsolved mystery, a map leads to human darkness, and the only star that guides is truth itself. With one last look at the etched compass, she turns and descends the ridge, leaving behind the Reaper's final coordinate, but carrying forward the North Star of Justice that will light the way for every case yet to come. Thank you for joining Cipher of Death, Alpha 6's challenge on Trace Hunt Radio. Until the next code is cracked, stay vigilant and never ignore the footprints in the dark.